Hi, readers. Today you're going to continue working on your nonfiction text feature scavenger hunt. But before you do, I'm going to review and go over all the text features that you are looking for during your scavenger hunt. Now, even though all these text features are different and they do something different, they all have the same common goal, and that is to help you better understand your nonfiction text so that you become an expert on that topic. So, the first nonfiction text feature that I'm going to talk about with you today are photographs. And photographs help the reader understand exactly what something looks like. And that is because photographs are actual pictures that were taken with a camera. They can be of animals, like this buffalo. They can be of people, like this picture of Bill Gates and this picture of Steve Jobs. They can be old photo from years and years ago. They can be newer photos. But the whole purpose of photographs is to help you visualize what these things actually looked like in real life. You're going to be looking for two different photographs in two different books. Make sure that you include the title of both of the books that you found your photographs in, the page numbers that you found the photographs on, what the photograph was of, and what the photograph helped you understand about your topic. The next text feature we're going to talk about are illustrations. And illustrations also help the reader understand the text better by showing what something looks like, but these are a little bit different than actual photographs. That's because illustrations are drawings or creations that are created, they could be created digitally, or they could be, some kind of collage of some sort, but they are not actual photographs taken with a camera. So if you look over here, I found two different examples of illustrations. In this book was about monarch butterflies, and this illustration is showing the farthest recorded monarch, how far they traveled in one day. So it traveled 265 miles. So this illustration is showing that from Philadelphia to Boston is 270 miles. So I might write over here that this illustration is helping me understand just how far away 265 miles is about. This picture down here, I'm reading in a book on Epic about sea creatures. And this illustration is talking about zones in the ocean, and not only the different zones in the ocean, but where different species or animals live pertaining to each zone. So, this illustration is helping me understand where these animals live, depending on their zone, what they need to survive, and how close they are together. The next text feature we're going to talk about are headings, and this one's a pretty easy one. You guys should all know this one, and we've been working with this one throughout our entire unit. But headings help the reader know what each section or chapter is mainly about. It's normally the big bolded word before, a paragraph. And when there's a new bolded word, that normally means that a new section is starting. So they'll put a new heading in bold. You are also going to need to find two different headings from two different sections in two different books. You'll tell me the title of the book, what the heading is, and then you're going to predict what this section will be about. So, for example, over here, I found a heading in one of my planet books, and it says the start of a star. And I predict that this section is going to tell me about how stars begin to form and what process they have to go to become a star. This heading, Famous Twisters, came out of one of my tornado books on Epic. And I think that this section is going to tell us about famous twisters that maybe caused the most destruction or had the highest wind speed or that are the most commonly known. The next text feature is types of print. So what that means is not necessarily a heading, but as you're reading beneath the heading within different paragraphs, you might see words that are italicized or that are put in a different color or that are bolded. And these words signal to nonfiction readers, hey, stop, look at me, I'm important. And when you come to these words, it's important to stop and make sure that you understand what that word means and why the author used that word. So I found a bolded word in one of my books about the coast and oceans. And right here it says the coast is the place where the water meets the land. Some coasts are rocky. So an example of a type of print that I found right here is bold print. And I think that the author did this because it wants me to understand where the coast is. And I know I understand it because I can think about, I'm looking at this picture and it's where the water meets land. That's the coast right there. I also found some bold print in my desert book. So I would write down my desert book title here, page 6 down here. An example of print that I found was bold print again. I think that the author did this because it wanted me to understand that not all deserts are the same. There are some that are subtropical, which are hot, but then there are also some that are coastal, which are cold, which is actually really fascinating because before I read that, I only thought deserts were hot. That's why it's important to pay attention to bold print. All right, so the next text feature we're going to be talking about are captions. And captions describe pictures and photographs, and it helps us to better understand what's going on in our illustrations and our pictures and photographs. So in my Titanic book, I found a caption describing this picture, and I'm going to write down the title Titanic, the page that I found it on, which are down here, and then I'm going to write down exactly what the caption says. So it says, freezing water. After the Titanic sank, hundreds of people struggled to survive. That night, the ocean was 28 degrees Fahrenheit, a temperature that can cause death in 15 minutes. Wow. I am going to write that down exactly right here, but I also want to take a second to look at this photograph and how the caption truly helps me understand what's happening. So not only am I looking at this photograph and realizing that the Titanic is breaking and sinking, but I'm also realizing that if people were to have fallen in this water and didn't get in a boat within 15 minutes, that would have caused them to die. And that's pretty scary. I will also have to go and find another book with another picture caption and do the same thing down here. I can't use this same book again. The next text feature that I'm going to be talking about are graphs and charts. And graphs and charts help us as readers understand important information by putting it into a visual representation. So over here, this is an example of a chart. This is in my book called Everything Weather. It's on page 23. And I found a chart that shows me the wind scale that puts hurricanes into different categories. It's also known as the Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale. What I learned from this graph or chart or graph is that hurricanes are put into categories depending on how fast their wind speeds are. So category number 1 is the lowest category with the lowest amount of wind speed and only some damage. And then all the way up to category 5, these are going to have the highest wind speeds and catastrophic damage, which means way more damage than any other category. And that's what I'm going to write down right here. The next text feature that I'm going to be talking about are timelines. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen timelines in social studies or already while you're reading your nonfiction books. And timelines help the reader understand the sequence of events from start to finish. It's just showing you a period of time that has passed. So I found this timeline in my robot book on page 8 and 9, and it shows around the time where first robots or bot-like things were created back in 850 BC all the way to 2011 on this timeline. This book is a little bit older, but it shows how these robots have evolved over time. Right here it says describe a fact you learned from the timeline. So I might write down that in 1996, researchers at Honda introduced P2, the first human-like robot. but you can pick any one of these facts that you learned to write down right here. All right, my next text feature is something that you guys might see every single day, whether it's, on the news or in social studies or even on your weather app. And that's maps. And maps help us as readers understand where things are in an area. So this book over here is about George Washington. And on this page it says, in the 1700s, America was not yet the United States of America. It began as just 13 colonies ruled by King George III in England. So right here, it is showing us the 13 colonies that were here before the actual United States was formed. And it kind of zooms out right here to show where those 13 colonies were in relation to Great Britain. So you can kind of see how far apart they were. They were across the ocean. So over here it says the title, which was my George Washington book, what page I found my map on, which was page 10. I found a map of the original 13 colonies. This map does not have a title, so I'm going to put no. This map does not have a key or a legend, and that'll normally be labeled in the corner, so I'm going to put no. And this map helped me understand where the 13 colonies were in relation to Great Britain, where King George was ruling them in England. The next text feature that I'm going to talk about are diagrams, and diagrams help the reader understand how something works. So I found this diagram of the water cycle in my water cycle book on Epic. I'm going to write down the page number that I found it on, and this diagram is obviously showing us the water cycle, and the diagram is helping me understand how the water cycle works. But I might write a little bit more detail than that because I have a lot of room and I only have to find one diagram. So I might talk about how the water cycle starts with water that's evaporating into the air from different kinds of bodies of water, maybe ponds, lakes, oceans. It evaporates in the air, which turns into condensation. That condensation collects in clouds, and the clouds eventually get full and they have to release the condensation in a liquid form, which turns into precipitation, which goes back into the ground or back into the body of water, and it starts all over again. So I might explain exactly what's going on in the water cycle and not just say it helped me understand the water cycle. I want to see what you learned from your diagram. So make sure that you're specific when you're explaining that. The next text feature is also one that you are pretty familiar with, and that is a table of contents. Table of contents help us as readers by giving us lists of chapter headings along with the page number of where each new chapter begins. This table of contents comes from a snake book on my Epic nonfiction book page. So I would write snakes here. It says, where in the book is the table of contents located, in the front and the back? The table of contents is almost always, if not always, located in the front of the book. I have yet to ever read a book that has a table of contents in the back, so we're going to go ahead and put in the front here. So how many chapters or headings are in the book? I'm going to go ahead and count those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm going to go ahead and write 11 here. What is the title of the first chapter? I'm going to write It's a Snake right here. The title of my last chapter, picture glossary. And what do I think I might learn from reading this book? I think it would be really easy for me to write, I'm going to learn all about snakes, but I want to be more specific than that. So I might say, I think I'm going to learn about the different kinds of food snakes eat, where they live, and different kinds of snakes. All right, our next text feature is a glossary. And the glossary is important because it helps the reader understand important vocabulary in that text. So back earlier in my video where I was talking about that bold print, a lot of times the print that the author put in bold, they will put in the back in the glossary and give you a definition. So you can go to the glossary and look up those bold words and figure out what some of those mean. So I found this book in my ice skating book, so I'll write my title there. The glossary is always located in the back of the book, It's asking me to choose one word from the glossary. I'm going to choose pack style, and I'm going to write down the meaning of this word. And the meaning of the word is, in short track speed skating, up to 6 skaters compete at once, not confined to lanes, using race strategies. Over here it says, explain why a reader would want or need to use the glossary. Not necessarily this specific glossary, but a glossary in general. And that is because readers are going to come across words or terms or vocabulary words that they don't know pertaining to their topic. So they would use the glossary to help them learn those new words, to help them better understand the topic that they're reading about. All right, our next text feature is the index. And the index is an alphabetical list of words from topics found in the book. Each word has page numbers where information about it can be found. So if you look over here, this index in the back of the book has different topics and what page numbers they can be found. So right here wants me to list 4 words from the index, include the page number. So I can include any of these words. So I might include diseases and then write down page 42. I might include elephants and write down all those page numbers. I might include woolly mammoths and write down those page numbers, and so forth. The index is also located in the back near the glossary, and the index is helpful to readers because if a reader wants to find something specific pertaining to their topic really quickly without going through the whole entire book front to cover, they can go back to the index in order to find that specific topic. All right, readers, so all the text features I just went over, you guys are going to be looking for as you embark on your scavenger, nonfiction text feature scavenger hunt. So like I told you guys yesterday, there are different things that you can use today. You can use your guided reading book to look for those text features. So some of you are reading Ancient Egypt, Pirates, Vikings, Knights and Castles. You can use those books. You can also use the books that are on my blue bins that are next to those guided reading books. You can get a computer and log on to Epic and use any of those books. And you can also use the Scholastic News that we put in your guided reading folders. Good luck, readers.